Hi everyone, welcome to the start of the Knockhill Puma Cup video diary. It is Thursday morning, just gone 10 AM, and I thought this time, rather than do a race video or a commentary video, we would do a little series of diary videos. So this is the first one, me leaving my house. It's just gone 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm about to go and get some diesel and fill up on V-Power for Woodstock, the Puma, the race car. And then I've got about 2.5 hours north to Middlesbrough, where I'm... Well done, silly cow. Probably didn't warrant a beep of the horn, but I'm recording, so I may as well try and make it nice and dramatic, don't you think? So go get diesel now, and then 2.5 hours north to Middlesbrough, where I'll go meet Catherine for lunch. If anything interesting happens on the journey, I shall try and record it. Otherwise, I shall see you in Middlesbrough. Thank you. Bye. Boring. 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 Bored. Can't see how much I'm spending. It's going to be loads.
Like a sinner before the gates of heaven, I'll come going on back to you.
And a bustle of noise, that's living alright, that's living alright. We're ready for a piece of pain, flowing on Saturday nights. And you kiss the dames, guess you don't ask their names, that's living alright. Working in the sun from absolute fun, that's living alright, that's living alright. And in the town, spreading it around, that's living alright. That's living alright. 24 hours. And things to pay. Send a little back to the wife. Sorry, my bad. I'm here just to keep you in there. That's living alright. You can play the game, but it's happy the same. That's living alright. Okay, at this point I've decided to change the tack of the video because I've gone through all the footage and all the different clips that recorded over the weekend, and politely put, they're all a load of toss. I didn't get what I was hoping for, so I've decided at this point to revert to a standard race video. I'm going to just do the one race though, the one from Sunday afternoon. This is the one where Emily and I raced anti-clockwise around the circuit. I will post the clockwise race as well, but I'm just going to do that as raw footage because it wasn't quite as exciting as the anti-clockwise race. So with that in mind, forgive the shenanigans of the first part of this video. All systems back to normal. Hope you enjoy the race, the commentary and the effects. Cheers, bye. Okay, so for those that don't know, this is the Puma Cup weekend up in Knockhill. You'll see from the little cartoon, Spannerman Mark Chappell on the left, myself on the right of this little cartoon, and Emily Glanvill in the middle, bringing the glamour for us. It was a double-header race weekend, and on the Saturday afternoon we raced in the normal clockwise direction around the circuit. I must admit it was a fairly uneventful race. I managed to get away from pole position and held off Ben and the Jackson brothers in second and third. We were having a really close fight actually, but when I brought the car into the pits and handed over to Emily, she just stormed away from everyone and made it look easy. So this race, the second one in the anti-clockwise direction, I'm again starting on pole position thanks to Emily's qualifying time, but what's the one thing you don't want to do? Make a hash of the start, which is exactly what I did. Yep, I think I just have to hold my hands up there. If you noticed, I was actually in neutral at the start. I don't really know why or what happened. I guess I was just going through too many thought processes, trying to hold the car on the grid because it's a slightly downhill grid, you know, using the handbrake and jockeying between that and the foot brake, and oh god, I need to get the clutch in, and yeah, hand on heart, I think it just ran away from me, and yeah, won't be doing that again. So after checking the rearview mirror to make sure I wasn't going to get hit up the backside, it was a case of grab first gear and just bloody get on with it. I was absolute dead last on the track now, as you can see from the rear view mirror, and there's a couple of other cars ahead of me who aren't in the Puma Cup class, and it was a bit annoying because Emily qualified the car, so we were on pole with her lap time, and of course she was much quicker than me in the qualifying session, so I don't really know if I've got pace on these guys in front, but I can't hang about waiting. Spot a chance to get past this Ford car, and yeah, make no bones about it. The guys on the pit wall are probably wondering, John, what the hell happened at the start, as I drive past, but I'm now thinking, don't care, I've got a few cars and 2 Pumas to deal with in front of me, so I'll do my best to clear the traffic, get on the back of the Puma Cup and go from there. Now, coming up to Clark Curve, these 2 red cars ahead of us, one of them is the Ford Fiesta, the one directly in front now. This is the team that generously donated a set of brake pads for us so that we'd have some stopping power in this session. So, mindful of their kindness, I was very keen not to really get involved and ruin their day. That would have been hugely inappropriate. I was hoping to get both of them into that chicane so that I could just scarper and leave them to it, but I only managed to make it past one. This Nova, what a little car. It's the little car that I dreamed of being my first car back in the late 90s, and unfortunately I could never afford the insurance on one. And it was great fun having a little scrap, and got a cracking exit coming through Duffus there, and managed to get the drag down the straight, but loved that little thing. So now I believe the next car on the circuit is the Puma, or in fact you can just see the green then purple, so the next one up ahead is Ben Isaacs in the purple blur. I'm not sure of the gap up to Ben at the moment. I'll need to check that on the pit board next time around, but I know that they're the next car, so it's now a case of just concentrating, getting some laps in and trying to close the gap. I'm also thinking that because they're having a bit of a scrap between each other, they might be holding each other up, which could work to my advantage. So head down, get a few laps under and see if we're closing on them or not. Okay, so that's about a full lap of just pushing on. I managed to see it on the pit board here that Mark's holding out for me. The gap to the car ahead is, I think, from memory, it was about 7.5 seconds. You can just see Ben there exiting the hairpin. I don't know if I'm closing at this point, and I know that sounds a daft thing to say given the visual,
But because of the concertina effect, when you brake, then when the other cars accelerate out of the hairpin, it's difficult to judge if you're actually any closer. Normally you try and do that down one of the straights, but the problem at Knockhill is that the straight has a crest in the middle. So as you climb the gradient going up to the crest, the other cars disappear on the other side of it, and it actually makes it quite tricky to figure out where they are in relation to you on the previous lap, if that makes sense. The rest of the lap, it's just too busy to try and get a visual reference in the same way. You're constantly from one corner to the next, and there's really no respite at all. So again, flying up over Duffus here, I'm just about to look at the pit board and see if I'm closing, and I'm going on memory here because I can't remember exactly, but it was about 3 or 4 tenths per lap that I was managing to close, and given the gap is now probably about 7 seconds, it's going to take quite a bit of running to get on the back of them, especially now, as you can see in the rear view mirror, the leaders are, well, they've caught me 4 or 5 laps into the race, and the leaders are here. Now, they will always just fly past us, they're so much faster, but occasionally when they catch us at the wrong part of the circuit, it slows us down. Now, I've managed to let the first 2 through and didn't really lose any time because I was on the throttle the whole way that they came past. So now I'm hoping that when they catch Ben and the Jackson brothers ahead in the green Puma, they will lose a bit of time and that will bring them towards me. But no sooner have those first 2 cars gone through, here's another one on the inside, and I did lose time there. So it all sorts of evens itself out through the course of a race, but at certain points in the race you can feel incredibly lucky, and really it gives you a real buzz when you manage to get an advantage through something like that, but then absolutely kills you, and there is nothing more unfair in the world than when you get a disadvantage from it, even though, like I said, it does all iron out in the end. Okay, for those of you that don't know, the Puma Cup normally runs to 40-minute races with a pit window in the middle, but because this was a double-header weekend and to get everybody as much track time as possible, we ended up doing 30-minute races, which, let me tell you, given the twisty nature of this track, was actually quite enough. Obviously sharing the car with Emily meant that I was only going to do a 15-minute stint, and the pit window opens at around 10 minutes, and I believe we're on about 8 minutes now. If you can just read the timer on the centre console, the display on the right hand side, it's about 8 minutes and something. So I'm thinking I've got 3 or 4 more laps before I bring and hand the car to Emily, and I can see now that I'm closing on the 2 Pumas in front. So the thing in my head right now is to give Emily the car in a position where she can go and win the race. So don't make any mistakes, certainly don't drop any further back, and get as close to their bumper as I possibly can for when the pit stop happens. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I've managed to get a handful of laps in, mistake-free. I've been watching my delta on the lap timer, and it's all been good. I've been shaving tenths off here and there, but for some reason, and having watched this replay, Lord knows how many times, I don't know what happened there. I went to grab third gear coming up the hill. I think I missed it. Maybe flashbacks of Donington when the gearbox actually, well, when we lost third gear. I don't know. I guess I just missed it. Tried it again, didn't work. Really went for it the second time and accidentally put it into fifth gear. So I really bogged down on the exit of Duffers, and according to the times afterwards, that cost me about 4.5 to 5 seconds, which, well, having put all the hard work in to try and close the gap up to the guys in front, I just went and undid it all with another silly little mistake. So essentially that's 2 in this race, the start line and the gear stick, which in terms of net loss is around the 10-12 second mark. Now Emily won, well, we won the first race on Saturday by about 20 seconds when I handed the car to Emily in the lead, just by a fraction. So on raw pace, I know that in a fair stint she can make about 20 seconds, and I've lost 12 of those already. So I'm really kicking myself. There's nothing you can do. You just have to try and ignore it, get it out your head and crack on. So looking at the lap timer, it's on about 11 minutes. Is this the one? No, I thought that was the one where I signalled to the pits that I was going to come in, but I did want to make sure the gearbox was okay. We're a lap in now, and since the incident at Duffers with the missed gear, and everything seems absolutely fine. It would have been tempting just to dive into the pits when that happened, in case there was something wrong, but I wasn't sure if the pit window was open, and secondly, I didn't want to give the car to Emily if it wasn't quite right. So getting another couple of laps under the belt just gives me the confidence that I'm handing her a car which is in sound condition. And given the fact this is the first time I've ever shared a car with anybody, it's amazing how responsible I felt. It's difficult to put into words. I did speak to a few of the guys in the paddock about it, but yeah, somebody else going out in your race car, and if you've not tightened the bolts up or if you've not done something, then you know that other person is putting their trust in you, and it's the first time I've been in that situation, and I won't lie, it did sort of weigh heavy on the mind, and it was certainly a new dynamic for motorsport as far as I was concerned. It's something I hadn't experienced before. Right, you might have just seen there I put the indicator on as I'm coming down the start line. That is of course to indicate to Mark and Emily on the pit wall that I'll be coming in at the end of this lap. Now of course Emily is a lot smaller than I am. I mean, I'm bigger than the average anyway, and the race seat that I use has got it's the extra wide version, so it's a bit more roomy around the hips for me to fit in comfortably. Emily's got a seat insert which is made out of foam and custom shaped around her body so that she's nice and snug in the seat. It does mean that when we come into the pits there's a few extra jobs to do, namely we've got to get the seat insert in, and then Emily will climb in and we adjust the harnesses and such like as well. Excuse me. So we've got a 2-minute pit stop, so we've got plenty of time to do it. It's one of those things, if you just take your time, do everything properly, double check everything, then you will still have time in hand. One of the reasons the CSCC do this 2-minute stop is so that nobody's in a rush and things don't get missed. So here we are, hitting the pit lane, pressing the timer and straight into the pit box, which we chose at this end of the pit lane to make life a little easier. That's it, handbrake, neutral, engine off, belts done, me out of the car. That's Alan from Team DHD helping on the left hand side, and this is Mark putting in the insert that we mentioned, feeding the harness through, making sure there's enough space for it. Alan's getting the shoulder straps while Mark slides the seat forward. We did a few practices of this just to make sure that we were all aware of what our jobs were, and we managed to mark the chassis where the seat rail needs to go. So Emily climbs in and everything, she doesn't actually have to do anything at this point. Mark and Alan will take care of the harnesses, pulling them tight, strapping them up, getting them into the buckle in the middle, and then as long as Emily's comfortable, then we'll be good to go. You can just sort of see Mark grabbing the one on the right hip at the moment. I'm leaning over Emily's shoulder at the moment on the right hand side, trying to give her a little heads up on what I experienced in the race. Basically telling her that the two things were my fault. They were nothing to do with the car, and she's got nothing to worry about other than chasing down those other two Pumas and making the overtakes for firstly second place and secondly for first place. Final checks, what's the timer on now? It's about 1.5 minutes. I noticed on the lap timer actually it was saying memory empty, so the lap timer needed a quick reset. That's what I was doing just there, and then we're about good to go. Emily can fire up Woodstock, engage first gear, and off she goes. Nothing coming in behind her, so she's got a clear pit lane to exit to, and as long as she hits the exit line after the 2 minutes is up, then we won't get a penalty. You see her just making a few adjustments on the harness just there before she gets out onto the circuit. And there we go. I think it was about 2 minutes 3 seconds that pit stop. So yeah, no fear of a penalty. She's got a clear track ahead. A leader flying down the inside. This is the lads who were next to us in the paddock actually, so we didn't want to upset them. And that's it. Emily will now take a lap or two to get her eye in, and then the chase is on.
So I'll take over the commentary now and give you a bit of chat about what was going through my head. So I kind of came out the pits thinking, right, we're kind of maybe 7 seconds, 8 seconds or so behind the cars in front. I knew the pit stop was a couple seconds maybe slower than it needed to be, but would rather be safe than sorry. So let's say just shy of 10 seconds to make up before catching the back of the rest of the Pumas, and then a couple overtakes to make to get up into the lead of the race. That's what I was aiming for. I thought it was achievable, but full send was going to be required in order to get there. So coming out the pit lane, that was the biggest thing on my mind, was just get on it straight away. You know, no mucking about, no warming the car up, just get straight on it. Felt in the brakes going into the hairpin on that first lap. We changed them from quali before, so I didn't really know what to expect. And when I pressed on that brake pedal and the car just stopped straight away, I was like, fantastic, filled with confidence. So from then on, it was just straight on it. And you can see just after one lap there, that purple Puma up ahead is already within sight. So that was an amazing feeling to have caught up so quickly. You can see him wrestling the car a little bit just under the sort of pace scrubbing through that corner, trying to use all the curves, especially on the run into the chicane here, as flat as possible, all the way to the bottom, run all the way out onto the green curb. At this point I'm aware that there is traffic behind as well, but I really don't want to compromise my line. So I'm just trying to keep my head down and not look in that mirror. Just focus on the back of that Puma. Here comes that Fiesta now, which is a perfect time to let him pass because it's not going to compromise my line. I can stay out nice and wide. Again, I was thinking that Fiesta might even get in the way of the Puma and slow him down a touch, which could play to my advantage. Sorry, Ben. It's got past nice and easily there. So now I'd say I'm within lunging distance of Ben, so it's just a case of using all the track, not getting distracted, and eyeing up a gap. You can see I'm not very good through that corner there. That was all a bit wild, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. You can hear the car skipping over the curbs as it hit the inside there. And the same again here, I'm sure. Really getting chucked all the way to the outside and pull out in plenty of time so that he's seen me ahead of the hairpin. Give him a wee smile on the way past. Cheers, Ben. Going in about middle of the road, no need to over defend there. Didn't want to run Ben off the track, or it's a lot of heavy braking there. You're carrying a lot of speed and you need to be quite firm on the brakes. And in an endurance race like this, there's always a chance that you could have brake fade, or you know, you don't want to be going in like 2 inches off the car in front just in case. So After catching Ben, I had a quick look in the mirror and decided, right, no need to be defensive, like head down, straight on, let's catch up to the next car. You can see him just in the distance there, green Puma, just getting overtaken by the leaders there at the moment. So that did slow him down a touch, which was useful for me, helped me kind of catch up a little bit, and I could see that maybe in about a lap or so's time I was going to be in a position to be making a move. You can see just how much speed I'm trying to carry through that corner. It's just about in the pit lane. There's no choice, just where the car gets shoved out afterwards. Again, getting out nice and wide on the way into the hairpin, trying to use the entry curb to really open up the corner. And just like that, it's within lunging distance now. So at this point I was thinking, don't do it, Emily, don't do it, don't be a hero, don't do it, don't do it, oh my god, I'm doing it, why am I doing it, oh my god, we're going 3 wide, okay. And I still don't quite know why such a heroic move was required, but there you go, gotta make it interesting for the spectators. But thankfully the guys in the green car were really, you know, aware of what was going on and gave us plenty of space. Going into the hairpin, the chicane like that, right in the middle of 2 cars was quite a scary moment. Everyone was very polite, and you can see me celebrating there, waving to the guys on the pit wall. Well chuffed to have made it past already. Straight up the inside of the car there, not wasting any time getting past that. And then it was just a case of head down and pull a bit of a gap, really. It's really tough to have caught up. Like, when you're watching it back, it only seems like I've been out there for a few laps, but at the time it feels like you've been out for ages looking for the rest of the field. I wasn't aware that there was probably still, you know, a fair bit of the race left to go. It was interesting as well hearing John's commentary earlier, mentioning how responsible he felt for the car, and you know what it felt like to share his car with somebody else, and worrying about, you know, handing it over in good condition and making sure it is well prepped and all these sorts of things. But there's very different worries for somebody like myself who was sharing someone else's car. When you're driving a car that's not your own, you're always slightly worried about making a mistake, putting it in the gravel, or worse, in a wall. So that is kind of always on the back of your mind, even though you can't let it slow you down too much. So yeah, at the moment, now that we're in the lead of the race again, and at a quick glance in the mirror, I can see that I've got a good gap behind, a fairly, you know, safe position to be in. Could have pushed harder, but decided that, you know, was it worth the risk? What more could we really gain? We're first in our class and mid-pack overall, which was, you know, really good considering like the pace of our class in comparison to some of the other cars on track. So, you know, there was no need to be a hero and chuck it off the road at the final hurdle type thing. Nice little Fiesta here that gave us some brake pads, so give him a wide berth. Do anything to upset him, very kind of them. Up ahead I could see a little Clio belonging to John, who had had a good race with the day before, so was kind of eager to get up to the back of him so we could have another little play again. We were quite evenly matched the day before and had a good laugh back and forth, and we were parked right next to each other in the pits. We had a good laugh about it afterwards, so I was keen to replicate that, so this is me just trying to chase him down. What I always find interesting about the reverse circuit at Knockhill is, although it's not a track layout that I've driven at all much before myself, I found that whenever I have, the lines through that kind of last stretch up the hill there are so varied. Depending on the car and the driver, there's just so many lines you could take, and I'm really not sure what the best is yet, to be honest. I've still got a lot to learn there. But it is good fun coming over the top of the hill with your foot flat to the floor as you come over that blind crest at Duffus. And if you're carrying loads of speed, it just pushes you out so wide, and you can see the spectators standing there kind of on the exit going, oh my goodness. You get shoved out towards the gravel and you just have to hope for the best. You can't lift, you can't brake, you're fully committed, you just have to keep it planted. So that's us caught up to John in the Clio now. Time to have a bit of a tussle with him. See me give him a wee wave there just to say hi. I'm coming for you. Brakes that we put in for this race were so fab in comparison to what we'd run on in quali. We just used some road pads which we really kind of struggled with. Managed to put in a lap time that was good enough for pole, but it was hard work, whereas now the car was just handling fantastically, best it had been all weekend. It really was an absolute joy to drive at this point. So I'd considered kind of chucking it up the inside at McIntyre's here a few times on some of the later laps, but again, it's that calculated risk. We're in the lead of the race by a big margin at this point. Is there any point in chucking it off the road or ruining John and the Clio's race, ruining our race? Probably not. So best just to sit behind him until we lock up. I thought, oh, I fancy my chances here though. Chucked it up the inside, but that Clio just has more speed in a straight line. You see me waving at him there going, come on, come on. But you can see I've pulled ahead a bit, but here he comes back up the inside as I take fourth. I just can't get that speed in a straight line to keep him behind. And tuck back in again. At this point you can see 14 minutes on the timer, so I'm thinking we're getting towards the end of the race now. Don't do anything silly, keep it on the black stuff, just get round. And it's at these sorts of times that you start almost wishing for the checkered flag to fly. Some of the leaders just coming through there. Considering chucking it up the inside, but backing out. And if you look in the rear view mirror now, you'll see, I think that's the top three of the race, ready to pile through. Me and John kind of going for it all at the same time. There they go. And aware some of our other paddock friends there in the silver Honda Civic behind, I could see them and I really didn't want to get in their way. Just trying to do everything I can to not compromise my lines, but equally not get in their way. Seeing that they're in third as well was absolutely fantastic, really tough for them, so didn't want to muck that up for them at all. this point in a half-hour race. Things are getting quite hot. Tyres, the driver. You can see me getting a bit sore there. No power assist steering wise in this car, which was a bit for me to get used to in comparison to the C1 that I'd been racing before. So yeah, quite tired arms. And there we go, that's us past the checkered flag, so just giving John a wee wave there and thanking him for a brilliant race. A quick wave for all the marshals around the track to say thanks for all their work that they do. But yeah, what a brilliant race, so much fun from start to end. Lots of pressure at the start. I knew that, you know, it was going to be a tough job and had to just absolutely send it, but boy was it worth it, and to come away with the win and by a decent margin as well was just the icing on the cake for what was a really fantastic weekend. So can't thank John enough, and Mark as well, our mechanic. Definitely a weekend to remember for sure.
That was ace, that. Thanks, Emily. I love the little waves to John as you were driving round and the little celebrations in the car. Absolutely brilliant. Right, thank you everyone for watching. Next time we're out at Snetterton in the middle of August, so keep your eyes peeled for the video from that. Thanks very much and goodbye.